Grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. What is recovery? This is Ramon Phipps with the detail. Let's dive into it. The definition of recovery is sometimes very misunderstood and undefined for a lot of people transitioning from addiction to recovery. Without the understanding of recovery, we are never going to be able to achieve it. First and foremost, the best recovery definition that I've came across is taking back something that was lost. Now, for many people, this could mean self-esteem, this may mean confidence, this could mean strength, willpower, this could mean a sense of identity. It can mean many things, and I love that definition because it's very empowering. In my own personal journey, recovery for me was about understanding the things I don't like about myself, understand the things I do like about myself, understanding what got me into certain life conditions, understanding who I am, and not trying to define that, but just trying to understand all of the complexities of who is Ramon Phipps. Without that understanding, I never had a reason, I never had a significant drive that drove me towards anything in my recovery, such as seeking help, practicing that nice grounding exercise whenever I felt stressed, choosing to say no to my substances of choice. All of this in itself never had any weight behind it until I really started to define who I was and understand who that person was in this new transition of my life that I called recovery. I just chalked it up to this wishful idea at first of I wanted to live healthy. I wanted to live positively. I wanted to find fulfillment. This is what I wanted very early in my recovery. I didn't know how difficult that was, and trust me, 5 years in, it still takes a lot of energy, time, and effort. But it's now a very beautiful, enlightening experience rather than a trial and tribulation that I have to go through on a daily basis, because finding yourself over and over and over again is very rewarding in itself. And sometimes this comes down to your small gratitudes, the small things that make you smile and laugh, the great things that you are able to reward yourself for, such as going through a hard exercise and just laying there in savasana afterwards saying, yes, I did it. But being able to do all these things in the first place only comes from the decision of stopping the other things that only weighed you down, that only trapped you in a life of routine, habit, familiarity, escapes. That was what addiction was for me. And this means of trying to escape my stresses over and over and over again. This means of trying to escape my insecurities. This means of trying to escape all my problems, all my worries, all my fears. But escaping away from these things is only ever going to be short term because it's attached to me like my shadow. It lives within me, it lives within my mind. And at some point in time, heck, even in my highest state of mind, I have to engage with these things. And if that was the case, if I could never run away from it, then what was my way out? The way out is looking within. And as simple as it sounds, it's actually very, very difficult because removing judgment from what we observe, removing our ego from what we observe is sometimes the hardest undertaking that we must go on in practicing this introspective exploration. And for a lot of people, you are going to need a third party, like a therapist, like a counselor, like a sponsor, like a friend who can help you in your understanding, maybe conceptualize some things, maybe help gain new perspectives, or help you observe things that you did not want to observe before, giving you a comfort and support. All these external resources are available to us. However, wanting to do it in the first place is sometimes the most difficult task. This takes willingness. This takes desire. This takes a want to actually challenge who you are and shake your internal world up in order for you to be better at the end of it. The big thing about recovery is there is no end point. It's not a destination. It's not this event that occurs too. Just because you walk in a treatment center and walk out on your day of graduation doesn't mean that you're in recovery. Because recovery already started the moment you say that you wanted to stop whatever behavior or whatever substance, whatever drug was ruining your life. Recovery already started when you made that decision, but it reached its lapse. It reached a relapse. it reached another hurdle that pushed you back to square one. And whatever this might have been for you, it never meant that recovery stopped. It just meant that you start participating in your recovery, because it is lifelong. If we want to be able to live our life happy, healthy, fulfilled, and free from addiction, then recovery should never be something I just set for myself in regard to a time scale. It should be something that I'm aiming for in regard to my lifestyle, my human experience. And understanding is always going to be an everlasting journey, but the idea of just making it to next year in my recovery, well, that may soothe you for now. That may soothe many people for now, but also ask yourself, who's not understanding, am I living in denial? Am I allowing myself to say, I just want to make it 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, 9 months, 10 months in order to drink on the 11th month? Am I allowing myself to just give me soothing effects that give me nothing but a short-term alleviation from stress? The real challenge is recovery is admitting that we're not ever going to do it again, wanting that, desiring that, working for that on a daily basis. And the reason why always has to come from within, looking into myself, seeing where I came from, seeing where I could end up again, knowing where I am right now. Wanting the idea of never engaging in the negative ways again. Behavioral choices of the past, addictive choices of the past. Actually wanting that is the first step towards true everlasting recovery. Why do I actually say that? Especially if it's so subjective. Because the desire of seeing yourself never using again is the most scary thought that you will ever experience in your transition from addiction to recovery. Seeing yourself never using again. Yes, you gotta take it one day at a time in this idea of never, and yes, even never is an absolute, and that might actually just lead to more pressure, but if you can overcome that pressure right here, right now, as you sit or stand, look yourself in the eye and say, I never want to use again, then your motivation, your spark, your flame, your fire starts to ignite itself. And everything that you do towards never using again has its long-term significance. Recovery is nothing without a long-term goal. And the long-term goal could be arbitrary. Again, doesn't need a timeline on it. Mine is just to live fulfilled and happy and healthy, however long that may take me. I want to be able to practice that on a daily basis. And for one day, it might just be not using it again. For another day, it means that I'm doing a lot of exercise and a lot of healthy eating. For another day, I'm practicing more expression or open communication with my family and friends. Maybe I'm going to a therapist. Maybe I'm practicing my mindful meditation. Whatever it may be, I always engage with my recovery. I always engage with my understanding towards myself. I use that knowledge and allow it to transform itself into wisdom so that I can look back at where I was yesterday and say that I have actually grown slightly, but significantly all the same. Recovery is going to be this continuous journey that I take step by step. What I did yesterday hardly matters. It's about what I'm doing today for myself tomorrow. I mean, be proud of however long you have in your recovery, however much clean time, if you want to call it that. Be proud of that, yes, but that is not your goal in recovery. Your goal is to keep going. Your goal is to keep understanding. Your goal is to keep growing as an individual. It's not to make it the next year, the next month. That is a short-term goal, but if that short-term goal has that long-term future vision attached to it, then that short-term goal is just one more small step forward. Understand yourself and why you want recovery in the first place. Without that understanding, you'll just see yourself taking steps back and back and back. Even when you do take your steps forward and forward and forward, imagine you're taking steps forward with your eyes closed, meaning you have no vision. You're still moving ahead, but you don't know where to. So define what your recovery is for you, so that as you take your steps forward, or heck, as you stand still sometimes, you still have something to look forward to. This has been Ramon Phipps with The Detail. I hope that we had a nice experience talking about recovery with me today. Stay tuned for more.